Now, during these programs, you have heard Dr. Habermas constantly refer to historical facts about Jesus that are accepted by virtually all critical scholars. Well, what? I asked him to tell you what these 12 facts are, and then why all scholars accept them as true. Listen.
Oh, great! Now we got 12 facts about Jesus that we need to examine. Let's dive right into these 12 facts, but first there's a little bit of a prologue from this guy that he just introduced. Let's see what kind of bullshit he slings at first.
The question here, obviously, is what kind of data do we have? What are these facts that I keep referring to? Because some people are going to be screaming now saying, there are no facts. Okay.
There are no... Oh, okay, crap. You already got me at my first argument against your bullshit here. There are no facts! Well, actually, yeah. That actually is it. There are no facts about the life of Jesus. Like, outside of the Bible, there are no facts. You can't say that because some philosophers or later people wrote down about Jesus, you know, like what people thought about Jesus at the time is any kind of like first-hand account or any kind of account of his life, really. It's just relaying information that's already out there. So you can't really count that. But let's see where you're going with this.
What is our audience? Evangelicals are going to look at the New Testament text and say, facts are all over the place. Every time I read and find one, that's a fact.
Every time I read and find one, that's a fact.
Every time I read a fact, I point it out in the Bible, and it's just right there. That's just a fact. Really? Every time you read a fact in the Bible, that's just a fact. That is the pure definition of circular reasoning right there. I mean, in order to verify that the Bible has facts in it, we need to like reference, you know, current documents outside of the Bible. Like, references that are contemporary to the time that the Bible is supposedly written in. Like, if you were to write something around that time that doesn't comport with anything that we know to be true in history, are we gonna just accept that as fact because it's written down in a fucking book? I don't think so.
I believe Scripture is inspired. Others will say, no, it's only a book of ancient literature.
Ancient literature, yes. Very much so ancient literature. That was literature that was written way back when. Now, you know, the Bible's gone through a lot of different changes throughout history, so the Bible that we know now is not what they were teaching in the first century. So I'm fairly certain that he's going to go on and talk about how in the first century all these different things were being preached and whatnot, and that's just not how the first century was at all. So he's going to bullshit. I guarantee it. If you're a Christian and you're watching this video, you know, he said that he believes that the Bible is God-inspired. Well, I hope that you know that Constantine, you have Constantine to thank for that, because he arranged the Council of Nicaea, and that was the main question at the Council of Nicaea is, you know, well, did just some douchebags write all this down and say it was God, or was it really God-breathed? Like, did God actually inspire this text? And, of course, you know, it was pointless. The Council of Nicaea is pointless. Let's just be honest right here, because Constantine, he had full control over the Council of Nicaea. His bias was leaning towards believing that what was written down was God-breathed and shit. Now, hold up. You're not gonna fuck my faith with a cactus, okay? You're just not gonna do it. I do believe that I have.
Now you have to ask the question, which are believable facts and which are not. Most scholars...
Wait, now we gotta say which facts are believable and which facts aren't? Seriously? I mean, if it's a fact, then it's definitely believable, because normally with facts you have information to back it up. Like, you have stuff to substantiate the fact, to make it a fact. Like, we have evidence behind it to make it a fact. So it's not whether or not a fact is believable, because that's kind of an intrinsic quality to a fact. That shouldn't be a question that's up for debate. Do you not know what a fact is? I know what facts are. They's in the Bible. The Bible contains facts, okay? No, it doesn't. The Bible may contain some small amount of history in it, which we can verify outside of the Bible with, you know, extra biblical sources. We don't have any of that for Jesus. It kind of makes you question shit, you know? Nope, I don't know.
will give you a list of facts surrounding the events that Christians call the gospel: the trial, the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus. I think there are at least 12 facts, at least 12. I mean, the vast majority of scholars will give you more than these, but there are at least 12 facts that critical scholars admit. Virtually every scholar will admit virtually every one of these. Okay. So every scholar will admit that every one of these is true. So therefore that makes them true. That is the purest form of an argument from authority that I know. Now, there are some people out there that want to try to misuse the argument from authority by saying that this isn't an argument from authority, but it is. I understand your confusion. I'm here to help you out. Okay, so basically what the argument from authority is, regardless of whether or not a person is an expert in the field, that them being an expert in the field is not what makes them correct. It's the underlying evidence that makes them correct. I don't know how else to explain this. But there's been some comments on my logical fallacy videos about the argument from authority, and most sources will say do not use the argument from authority to dismiss expert claims or anything like that. And that's not what I'm saying that you need to do. I'm not saying that you need to dismiss them just because they're an authority or anything like that. That's dumb as fuck. But if they don't have good underlying evidence for what they're saying or whatnot, I don't care. Richard Dawkins could say some kind of fucked up shit about biological science. Just because he's an evolutionary biologist doesn't make him automatically correct. But you see, here's the thing, is that normally with Dawkins or anybody else that has any kind of sense about them, they're going to say, well, hey, I've done this research, this is what I know. And then they'll say you can look it up yourself, or you can do, because people value independent assessment, saying that, well, you can find the information yourself and you can learn why it is. I'm not expecting, scholars or whatnot to go in depth about it. I think that it's incumbent upon you to go in depth about it and make the decision for yourself. Now, with these historical claims, it's not going to take a rocket scientist in order to get this shit, okay? It really doesn't. History is the same as it was taught in your high school as it is when you're reading about it now. I mean, there's not any kind of change because it's history. And, just like we know, the Mayflower is what brought the Pilgrims over here because of several sources and documents, we should have several sources and documents for one of the supposed most magnificent fucking person in history. I mean, if he made such big waves, we should have some kind of record of him, right? But we don't. With the 12 facts he's going to go through here, he says that scholars verify that this is true. It's like, okay, well, what is their evidence to say that it's true? It can't just be that they're scholars. That's just dumb as fuck. You don't need to take someone on something like this. You don't need to take someone at their word. I mean, it's something that you can independently verify for yourself. So shouldn't you do that? I mean, if something doesn't sound correct or if something isn't logical, you should investigate it and try to understand either why it is, why it isn't, why you might be wrong. Investigating. I mean, that's what I did. I investigated why these people were wrong about the crucifixion and all this other stuff. And simply, there are no records. There's not enough information for us to say, yes, there was a guy named Jesus and he was killed on a cross. Let's get into his 12 facts about Jesus. 1. Jesus died by crucifixion.
No. There's no evidence to support this claim.
2. He was buried. Nothing.
No evidence to support the claim that he was buried. Merely stories told in the Bible about how he was buried. There's nothing outside the Bible to suggest that he was.
Strange about these things. Most people die. Most people are buried. 3. His death caused the disciples to despair and lose hope, believing his life had ended.
This particular one is just anecdotal evidence, even if the disciples were to have actually existed, which I don't even think they existed, considering that Jesus didn't exist. I mean, there's 12 disciples, and they represent some kind of, sun worship kind of thing, like the signs, like Sagittarius and blah, 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 blah. And they also represent, the 12 tribes of Israel, Israel. I mean, it's all pretty kind of convoluted in a whole bunch of sun worship and Jewish history. It's kind of like a melding of the two, is what it is. So, yeah, I don't think the disciples existed, and even if they did, this would just be anecdotal evidence, just their own stories about how Jesus changed their lives is not gonna cut it. I mean, we need, we need historical account. If the disciples' lives were truly changed, we would have, we would need letters from them talking about Jesus in a very casual manner, being like, yeah, he died, but then holy fuck, he's here, he's knocking on my door, he's asking for my Cheetos, I don't know what to do, help me, I need an adult.
What would you say if your best friend died and very suddenly? 4. Now, I admit this one is not as widely held, but many scholars believe that the tomb in which Jesus was buried was discovered to be empty just a few days later.
Yet again, there is no evidence to suggest this, that his tomb was found open. Also, the pure fact that even in the Bible itself, they disagree with how the tomb was found. I mean, in Mark, it doesn't even go into, what happened after the tomb was found empty. In Matthew and Luke, of course, they find it empty. But Matthew, Luke, and John, they all find the fucker empty in different ways. I think Luke is the most magical motherfucker out there, too. He's got an archangel coming down from heaven, bitch slapping that seal on the tomb away, being like, motherfucker ain't here, go find him elsewhere.